Flying over Kaloleni, Giriama. Chapter 1. It was a bright morning in Kaloleni, Giriama, the sun casting a warm glow over the rural town. Welcome to the aerial view of the oldest buildings of Kaloleni, from the posho mill to the retail shop, a hotel, a retail bucket, and lastly, Fondo General Stores. Known to the locals as Kwakidunga Ajeni, the town was centered around a single bus park called Mugandini, named after the ancient Mugandi tree that had stood there for centuries. This tree, with its gnarled branches and thick foliage, was not just a landmark, but a living witness to the town's history. Just across from the Mugandini stage stood the oldest building in the town, the cooperative house, where the main post office was located. This building was a hub of activity, with vendors selling byproducts of the coconut tree, though the potent Munazi brew was reserved for special gatherings known as mangwe, or during traditional marriage and burial ceremonies. Nearby, a garage, a mosque, a school, and a hospital. At the cooperative house, farmers found a poorly stocked agrovet, and visitors to the town often dined at the Kaloleni Central Restaurant near the bus park. The restaurant served a simple yet satisfying menu of tea, mandazi, chapati, and beans, though most locals preferred the comfort of home-cooked meals. The Kwakidunga stage bustled with activity, home to a retail shop and a posho mill. Next to this establishment was the large Fondo General Stores, a retail and wholesale shop owned by the prominent Fondo family. This family also operated the holiday bus, one of the few buses in town, alongside the Ramshi buses, which provided transport to Mombasa, Mariakani, and Kilifi. Outside the shop, several tailors plied the trade, and a petrol station kept the buses and other vehicles running. There was the Jezajomu bus, which reminded residents of the idiom Jezajomu, do your level best, which was adored by Ronald Ngala, a prominent politician from Kaloleni who advocated for a federal system of governance after independence. On the outskirts of town, various homesteads dotted the landscape. Vishakani, the homestead of Ronald Ngala; Mgandini kwa Kidunga, St. Luke's Hospital, kwa Harrison Matano, Lancaster House, kwa John Kamango, kwa Robert Nzai, kwa Kahindi wa Johana, kwa Kagumba, kwa Madaba, kwa Magago, and Kizurini kwa James Kacharo and kwa Mbaita. Other key locations included Kinani kwa Chelsea Mwango, who owned a petrol station near the toll station at Mnyororoni kwa Solomoni, kwa Marsden, kwa Henry Kenga, kwa Philip Kaingu, opposite Kizurini Memorial Primary School, which now had Kizurini Secondary and Kizurini Hill with its magistrates, prison, and the police station. The community also gathered at Kwa Jafet Chengo, another elder at St. John's Church. At Mugandini, past Fondos, there was Chandani, the blacksmith, where residents sharpened their farm tools. Near Mnyororoni, there were two wholesale shops owned by Indians, Ramji, now known as Giriama Traders, and Bachu. As the birds gathered around the Mugandi tree, they reminisced about the idyllic past of Kaloleni Giriama. Their air was filled with the sound of chirping and fluttering as birds of all kinds perched on the branches, peered through the leaves, and mingled with one another, exchanging stories in a cacophony of chirps, caws, and whistles. Among the feathered assembly, an underlying tension lingered. The recent influx of black crows, known locally as Makurabu or Makunguru, had disrupted the harmony that once prevailed. These crows were notorious for their voracious appetites, consuming everything in sight. A wise old eagle named Tai, who had seen countless generations come and go, perched on the highest branch of the Mugandi tree with a sharp eye and a keen sense of observation. Tai had become the de facto leader of the birds community. As he surveyed the scene below, he noticed the growing unease among his fellow birds. "What brings us to this state of discord?" Tai called out in a voice that commanded attention. "Why do we find ourselves at odds with the Makunguru and the Makurabu?" A parrot named Kasiji, known for his colorful feathered and even more colorful language, peeped up. "These black pests have invaded our peaceful haven. They eat everything, even the things we wouldn't touch with a 10-foot beak. Where did they come from anyway?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. The birds were curious, anxious, and most of all, frustrated. "We need to get to the bottom of this," said Katongo, a stately crane with a long neck and an even longer patience. "But first, let's have a bit of fun. A little insult contest to lighten up the mood, eh?" Laughter erupted among the birds, and soon they were hurling playful insults at the imaginary Makunguru, who responded in kind. The sky was filled with witty barbs and dark humor as the birds engaged in a verbal sparring match that left no feather unruffled. Suddenly, the sound of raucous cawing filled the air as the Makunguru and Makurabu arrived en masse from Mabaya Nyundo, where a feast had just concluded at the home of Brigadier Nzovu. Their arrival disrupted the meeting, and chaos ensued. The Makunguru and the Makurabu swooped in, clutching a big dead snake and speaking while eating, causing an uproar among the other birds. "You dirty gluttons!" screeched Kasiji, his feathers ruffled in anger. "Can't you leave anything untouched?" "We are creations of humans," retorted one of the Makunguru between bites. "They instilled us with artificial intelligence, and soon we will be born inside greenhouses. We are not just dirty birds. We are the future," one of the Makunguru added weight of the words. The birds clashed fiercely, and in a commotion, some were injured and forced to flee in different directions. Tai, perched high above, watched the turmoil with a heavy heart. He knew that this conflict could not be solved with insults and fights. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over a Mugandi tree, Tai called for calm. "Enough!" he cried out. "We cannot continue like this. We must find a way to coexist or risk losing everything we hold dear." The birds, both those of the Mugandi tree and the Makunguru and the Makurabu, slowly began to settle down, their anger giving way to exhaustion. Tai looked out over his community, a mix of old friends and new adversaries, and knew that their journey to peace would be long and fraught with challenges. But with determination and wisdom, he believed they could find a way to restore harmony in Kaloleni, Giriama. Stay tuned for chapter 2. And this is Flying over Kaloleni, Giriama.